Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a town hall with the Pickens County Republican Club. Start with a quote from the first Republican, Abraham Lincoln. My concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. Would you join me in prayer? Dear Lord, please bless our community, our state, and our country. We pray that you would always give us the guidance necessary to always be on your side. In Jesus' name, amen. Bonnie, would you join us, step up here and do the creed? The Republican Party creed.
Good evening. I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon. If I can seek opportunity, not security, I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for dole. I prefer the challenges of life to guaranteed security, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia. I will not trade freedom for beneficence, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master save my God. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud, and unafraid, to think and act for myself, enjoy the benefit of my creations, and to face the whole world boldly and say, I am a free American.
I don't know who wrote that, but they did a very good job. To avoid any confusion, we are not the Pickens County Republican Party. We are the Pickens County Republican Club, which is a auxiliary group of the South Carolina Republican Party. We all operate under the same umbrella, but we're different. We're separate. When you start asking questions, we just got a few simple rules. Just be civil. Exercise your free speech rights, but be polite, be civil. We always like to recognize elected officials that turn out. Tonight we have a former elected official, Butch Womack, the former mayor of Easley. We have Amy Williams, who is on the school board, and Senator Rex Rice, who is here with us tonight. Thank you, Senator. Thank all of you for coming. And now before we go to the introduction, there's one thing we need to do, and that is the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for doing that, folks. And now a short introduction of the Attorney General of South Carolina. I actually did a little look-see. A.G. Wilson is a graduate of Francis Marion University and a 2002 graduate of the University of South Carolina School of Law. Attorney General Wilson joined the National Guard immediately after graduating from college, and today he continues his military service as a colonel in the South Carolina National Guard, and he's up for promotion to general. Proud of you. Thank you. Prior to his election, A.G. Wilson spent his legal career as an assistant solicitor, an assistant attorney general, and as a civil litigator in private practice. A.G. Wilson was elected South Carolina's 51st attorney general on November the 2nd, 2010, and he was reelected to a fourth term as South Carolina attorney general on November the 8th, 2022. Elected for the fourth time, you must be doing something people like. They keep asking you back. And as far as asking you back, he has always been generous with his time and coming all the way to Pickens. And I know for a fact he did a press conference this morning in Charleston. So he's driven from one end of the state to the other to join this. Thank you. To join us here tonight. We do like you here in Pickens County, and we do appreciate you making the drive. And I don't want you to think he's rude when we get done tonight, so you need to know that he's got to catch a plane at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he told me just a little while ago that he hasn't packed yet, which sounds like he's related to somebody in my family. It might be me. So anyway, without further ado, thank you for coming. The Attorney General of South Carolina, Alan Wilson.
Thank you, Rick. I'm using the microphone. Usually I would keep this more casual since it's an more intimate group, but so that people who might be watching on the streaming and on the interweb, they can obviously hear me talk. So that's why I'm using the microphone. And I'm having to wake up at 4 a.m. and get to the airport. I'm taking 2 teenagers and a wife with me to New York tomorrow for the Republican Attorney Generals Association's summer conference, where I'll be meeting with Republican AGs from around the country. And when you're trying to get 2 teenagers up at 4 a.m., well, you all know where I'm going with this. So, but anyway, I'm going to leave here quickly. That's why I got here early, so that any of you that need to talk to me could go ahead and talk to me. But I will be back a lot, and I will be up here a good bit, and this is an important county to me, and I'll talk a little bit about why that is in a minute. But I want to say thank you, Rick, for having me, and it's great to see everyone here, and I see some folks, some old friends, and I see some new friends, but it's great to be back. As Rick said, I'm in my 4th term. When I was elected Attorney General for the state of South Carolina, I was 37 years old. Now, I'm 51 years old right now. Now, when I look back and at 37, I'm thinking 37 years old, you have Similac on your breath, right? You're still a child in my book. You know, I remember walking into the AG's office the first day at 37, like, my God, I don't feel any different than I did when I was 17. They're letting me run this place. And here I am 14 years later. As I said, I was the youngest Attorney General in the country at the time. Now I'm the longest serving. I'm the Dean of Attorneys General. But I've had the opportunity to get to serve with so many amazing people. 2 weeks ago, I was up in D.C. having dinner with my very dear friend Pam Bondi, who came into office with me back in 2011, and she and I served together, overlapped 8 years together. And I'm just so proud of what she's doing up there. I developed relationships with Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, who's now at Homeland Security, who I have a very close relationship with, and so many other folks like Stephen Miller in the Trump White House. Just being able to work with these very talented men and women who are really, I think, changing the world. Now, I want to talk about how elections matter. Last November, we won the presidency, and we put Donald Trump back in the White House. Now, I will tell you, let me tell you why this is important. The previous summer, let me tell you how important this election was by giving you actual facts. I went to the southern border of El Paso, Texas last August, and I was down there and I was meeting with state officials. We really weren't allowed to talk too much with the federal officials, but we met with the State Department of Public Safety. And this is what they told us. During the at that time, 3.5 years of the Biden administration, they were having tens of thousands of people cross their sector every month under Biden's administration. And what they learned is that when someone would cross the southern border, they would look for people wearing green uniforms and run from people wearing tan uniforms. Why do you think that is? Anyone want to take a guess as to why they would run to someone wearing a green uniform and run away from someone in a tan uniform? Because the green uniforms were federal officers. They were federal border patrol agents who, under policies of that administration, were required to take them into custody, take them to an NGO tent, ensure that they get processed, they get a notice to appear, they're given $2,000 and a cell phone, and then released into the interior of the United States. If you were to get caught by a person wearing a tan uniform, they called it Texas tan. Those are the colors of the uniforms worn by the Texas Department of Public Safety. They knew that they would be released back on the other side of the Rio Grande. They would be released back into Mexico. They would not be allowed to enter Texas if they got caught by someone working for the state of Texas. So incentives matter, policies matter, because policies create incentive structures, right? Here's something else. I want you to think about incentive structures. Not only where they would run away from the tan guys and run into the green guys, but this is something else that got incentivized. Young males stood out like a sore thumb. So they didn't want to look like a single young male because they were usually with a violent gang, they were with Mexican drug cartel, they could have been a criminal on the run. They wanted to come across looking like they're not a problem. So they would want to come across looking like a family. So they would usually come across with an adult female and children. But if they don't have children, where do you get children? You go take them. And so during the first Trump administration, they were required to do buccal swabs. That's where they would swab the inside of your cheek to ensure that you as the adult are related to the child. What they found is 75% of those swabs came back unrelated. So when the Biden administration got in there, they did that for a time, and they were getting such high kickbacks that these adults were not related to the children that they actually ceased doing the swabs altogether. Yeah. So again, what does that incentivize? Taking children if no one's stopping you. The Biden administration's, Senator Rice, I don't know if you knew this, the Biden administration's Homeland Security Inspector General's office released a report last summer that there were 320,000 unaccompanied minors who had been given notices to appear by the adult they were with over the last 3 years preceding, and none of them, they couldn't find out where any of them were. They have completely disappeared. We don't know where they are. Are they being trafficked? We don't know. Are they parts, where are they? We just don't know. But these are the incentive structures that were created by the policies of the Biden administration. During the Obama administration and the Biden administrations, respectively, there were 2 Supreme Court cases, one by the state of Arizona, one by the state of Texas. You know what these states did? They passed laws that said it is a crime to be in the state illegally if you're crossing the southern border. It mirrored federal law. Well, the Biden and the Obama administration sued both of those states when they were in office, saying you're not allowed to pass laws that complement federal immigration laws. And the states would say things like, wait a second, we're not conflicting with federal laws, we're complementing federal laws. It's again, in South Carolina, it is a state crime to traffic drugs. It is also a federal crime to traffic drugs, right? They don't conflict, but they took that to the Supreme Court, in a different Supreme Court under the Obama years, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Obama administration. State of Texas tried to do the same thing. That is currently going through the legal process, and we're hoping to overturn that Supreme Court precedent now that we've got some other justices on the court. But the point I want to tell you is that the federal government was actually not only preventing federal officials from working with state officials, they were suing states who were trying to police their own borders to prevent them from doing it. And then they're trying to prevent people from asking citizenship questions on the census when it's circulated amongst the states. You know, you can all guess why we think that is, right? We know why. Now, let's move on. Back in January of 2024, the second day of the year, January 2nd, I had a press conference up in Greenville. And I'm going to give a shout out to Senator Rice in a minute. I know you got to run, but I'm going to brag about you for a minute. But before I get to the brag, I got to set it up. We have so much drugs coming into the upstate. We have so much stuff pouring into our borders, and there's about half a dozen drug trafficking cases that we have, and it is all related. It is all related to Mexican drug cartel activity. I don't know if you knew that. Mexican drug cartels are alive and well. And during that press conference, I announced 360-plus charges against 64 defendants involving 6 people who died as a result of a fentanyl overdose, where the drug dealer sold the drug knowing that it was laced with fentanyl, knowing that they would die. We charged them with murder. Okay? It's a very novel, aggressive approach. Okay? We also know that there are probably other people who have died as a result of this drug trafficking scheme. We know that over the history of drug trafficking in the last 4 to 5 years, there have been 850 kilograms of cocaine that our office and local law enforcement have either deterred and/or seized, 500 kilograms of meth, and 544 kilograms of fentanyl. 1 kilogram of fentanyl is enough to kill 500,000 people. And the historical trafficking trend showed that there were 544 kilos of fentanyl. Now think about that for a second. So we went to the legislature, and we went to them to say, hey, we need to have a homicide by fentanyl bill. And that bill needs to allow us to, I don't want to have to go to murder, because if Gary, may I use you as an example? You're going to be my prop. If I sell Gary a drug, now I'm not even saying it's cocaine or heroin or crack or anything. It could be an Adderall. Right? It could be something innocent. I sell him an Adderall, and if I know that there's fentanyl in there, but I don't know that he'll die from it, you can get me for being a drug dealer, but you can't get me for his death if he dies as a result of it, because there's no intent to kill him. Now, I would have to give Gary an Adderall with fentanyl in it and actually know to my friends, hey, there's so much fentanyl in there, it's going to kill him, for them to go after me with murder. That's when we can use murder. The homicide by fentanyl bill allows me to go after the drug dealers who don't necessarily know that the fentanyl will kill them or kill the person they're selling it to, but they know that it's in there. and that it could be a factor in their death, and then you can get them in jail for up to 30 years. That is a tool, and I want to thank Senator Rice for your support of a lot of these law enforcement measures that we're advocating for in the state Senate. Another thing, and I know that you were for this, the AI morphed images bill. Do y'all know what that's about? So we have a lot of child predators out there. We have a lot of people who are going after children to try to hurt kids. Now, here's something that they do. They've gotten smart. They use artificial intelligence, and I tell folks artificial intelligence today in 2025 is a lot like the internet was in 1995. Y'all remember the internet in 1995? How many people here had Prodigy, right? AOL, when you remember the dial-up modem and everything ran slow and it was all new. We couldn't contemplate where the internet was going to take us. We just knew that it was going to open up the world, and it did. This was before Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all these social media platforms. It's weird. There'd be light. I had a good idea. That's my idea up there. Anyway, but the AI is going to be like that. AI is going to change the world in so many wonderful ways. But the bad guys, just like they did in '95 with the internet, they're going to take this new technology and they're going to innovate and they're going to create ways to circumvent the law. So we all know it's against the law to take sexually provocative photos and videos of children, right? You can't do that. But what if you take AI and you were to morph images of children playing at a church picnic and use those images and create that child engaging in something inappropriate, right? You're not hurting, they would argue, I'm not hurting a child, I have a First Amendment right to do this. Or what if you took a bunch of composite photos of children and created a child out of thin air, a child that doesn't even exist, right? And then show that child engaged in a sex act. Well, they passed bills this year, thank you again, Senator, that allow us to go after these individuals who are trying to circumvent the law. They're trying to use a good technology to do an evil thing. Now, someone would say, well, they're not hurting any children. Let me tell you something. When you take those children and you morph them into doing something, you are harming them. And when you do anything that creates and feeds the demand for more child porn, you're feeding a demand that should be criminal. This is not a First Amendment issue, in my opinion. And so now we have the tools to go after them. We got an administrative subpoena bill out of the state Senate that allows me to shave several weeks to up to several months off of child predator investigations. So like right now, before the bill was signed and before they passed it, thank you again, if I wanted to go, if we got a cyber tip that someone at this email address or at this handle on this social media platform, or maybe it was an IP address, it could be an IP address in this building, right? Before we could even, we would have to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office and get them to sign an administrative subpoena, or we'd have to go through a very cumbersome court process to be able to get Spectrum or Google or whoever the internet service provider is to give us the registration data of the person behind that IP address. Doesn't mean that they're the guilty party. We wouldn't even know where to go to investigate. It would take us several weeks to several months to get that information. They passed a law that allows me to sign an administrative subpoena, and within a day and a half, we can actually know the location where that child porn was being uploaded or disseminated or even being manufactured. It shaves weeks to months off. So it was a banner session for us in the Attorney General's office, right? So other things, in addition to law enforcement, I'm out there fighting a war, a woke war, if you will. There are people out there, for instance, we have the Help Not Harm bill in South Carolina. There are states out there that are passing laws. Tennessee, there's a case called U.S. v. Scarametti. I went to the U.S. Supreme Court back in December with the state of Tennessee and a number of other states because they passed a bill similar to the one that we passed here in South Carolina. Now, you know what this bill said that was so offensive to people? It says that you can't mutilate the genitals or inject young children that are minors with hormones and perform life-altering transitions until they're of age. That was the law. That was what offended people. We got sued by the ACLU. Tennessee went up ahead of South Carolina. Our case has stayed down in the district court in Charleston right now, but that went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to rule probably in the next week or two on that case. I am very guardedly optimistic that we will prevail because states do have rights to prevent people from abusing children. People who say this is parental rights, I want to socially transition or physically transition my child, I should be allowed to. States have told you that you can't let your child ride in the front seat of the car until they're a certain height and weight. States have said you can't sell cigarettes to a child or give a child alcohol until they're a certain age. States have said a child cannot consent to sex because it is not theirs to give away until they reach a certain age. States put reasonable boundaries on the protection of children. Why would we, if a school nurse has to get permission for you to give your child a Tylenol, then why is the state wrong to be able to say you can't mutilate or inject a child with hormones? That is the law that I'm currently defending in the federal district court. We are going after, we got cases out there involving the defense of parental rights. We got cases out there basically not just about parental rights, but protecting the right to free speech. There are cases where school districts are passing laws that say you can't misgender a kid even on a weekend, and if you do, you can be kicked out of school. We're going up on that. It's amazing the kind of stuff we're going up. We're defending women in women's sports, trying to keep that at women in women's spaces. These are things that I never dreamed in a million years that we would, that you know, using the wrong pronoun is now a controversial thing in certain areas of the country. Here's another thing. I'm drafting a letter right now to the FBI to deal with anti-Semitism in this country. You're welcome. When you have people out there, there were 2 people in Washington, D.C., who were just murdered on the streets outside the embassy. Okay, the guy wasn't even Jewish, but he was walking out of the embassy and he was murdered. There are kids out there protesting in the name of Palestine, and they're killing people because of their heritage, their ethnicity, their faith. And I was talking to, y'all know who Leo Terrell is? Leo Terrell is over the Civil Rights Division in the Anti-Semitism Task Force. He's that black guy that switched the Republican Party, and he used to be on Sean Hannity all the time. He's always wearing a MAGA hat. I was with Leo a couple of weeks ago. My idea went away. At the Department of Justice, he says, you know what, this is the new civil right. Everyone keeps talking about the 1960s and talking about making it a black-white issue, but he says we're going to pivot to combating anti-Semitism. So we're going to be out there aggressively defending and promoting laws and rules and investigations that go against people who are targeting people because of their Jewish faith. And that is something that I'm very passionate about. I didn't hear about New York today. Just so that they can hear you.
There are people that do a walk. It's not a protest. It's a walk to ask the government to get the hostages home from Hamas. And they do it regularly. And a Palestinian today walked up to them and threw flammable fluid and put them on fire.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was like a day ago, wasn't it? That was Sunday.
All right, I read it today.
Weekend. That was this week. I thought you were talking about something since I was driving up here. Yes, they
Oh.
were catching. No, yes, it's evil. It's evil.
That was, excuse me, that was yesterday.
Yeah, that was this weekend. I did hear about that. Look, I was in Israel last year, not a couple months after October 7th, and I was down there. I was literally a kilometer from the Gaza border. I was down there in Kibbutzim, Be'eri, and I forget the other kibbutz I went to, but I saw the blood smeared on the walls. I saw the bullet holes in the houses. I saw the videos. I met with the families of mothers and fathers whose children had been murdered, killed in front of them, people who'd lost their parents. It was gut-wrenching. And, we're lucky that we have an ocean to separate us, but I'm telling you right now, the people over there are going after Israel. They call them the little Satan. Who do you think the big Satan is? It's us. It's us. And so we have to draw a line in the sand, and that is something I'm very passionate about. I know I'm kind of going dealer's choice. I'm going to pivot to Q&A in just a minute, but this morning I was down in Charleston, as Rick said, on the other side of the state. I was at a press conference with the governor, the chief of SLED, the sheriff of Charleston County, and about half a dozen ABC federal and state agencies that were part of a task force. And I told y'all that this task force busted up several cartel members, liberated a number of human trafficking victims. It seized a lot of drugs, a lot of cash. They busted up a club. There's that good idea again coming back. They busted up a club where there were children as young as 13 there, under the age being served alcohol. And so this was a major bust, and it shows that the policies of the previous administration that I talked about at the beginning of my remarks opened up the floodgates to all this illicit criminal activity to pour into the United States, to pour into South Carolina. And now that the president has basically plugged up the holes of the boat, we have to bail out the water now. And that's what we're focused on, and that's what I'm focusing on as Attorney General, to protect and defend the rule of law, whether it's in the schoolhouses or whether it's in our streets and our neighborhoods and our communities. But you have my commitment that I'm going to continue to fight the good fight. The legislature has given me additional funding over the last several years to beef up the section of my office that does challenge the federal government when it overreaches, and it also challenges municipalities when they overreach, and it also defends the laws that the legislature passes, like the heartbeat bill. These bills that we have, when they pass a law, whether it's to help not harm, the women in the men and women's spaces proviso, we have to defend that. The heartbeat, all these bills that we're having to defend, we couldn't do it without the funding. They give us the funding, so we're your happy warriors now. Okay, I wanted to, since this is a smaller group, I just kind of wanted to give you guys a dealer's choice. Whatever y'all want to talk about, I'm happy to answer questions or talk more about other issues. But and Senator Rice, I know you had to go. Did you want to say anything to this group? Yeah. I mean, I want to give your state senator an opportunity to make a few remarks.
I just want to say thanks for coming up to Pickens County. You're welcome here anytime. We appreciate you. We appreciate the job that you are doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just keep up the good work. And thanks for working with the Senate to help our children.
I appreciate it. I couldn't do what I do if y'all weren't there backing me up. Okay, we can talk about whatever y'all want to talk about.
I
Rick?
got one for you. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this. Any news you want to give us on running for governor?
So, yeah, there's a nasty rumor running around the state that I'm thinking about running for governor. It is the rumor that I'm thinking about running for governor is true. I am thinking about running for governor. I have not made a formal decision or a formal announcement yet, but that will be coming in the very near future. What I can tell you is this. I travel around the state, and everywhere I go, I'm being met with folks who are really encouraging me to run. I know every candidate says that, but I'm telling you, that's what I'm hearing. And, you know, I've been elected 4 times to be Attorney General. I've quadrupled the size of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. I have created the Human Trafficking Task Force. I've worked with the legislature and fought to reform our domestic abuse statutes, our DUI statutes. I've also worked with the legislature last year to reform how we elect judges. We still have more work to do, but we've had more reforms in how we elect judges than we have in the last 30 years. I'm a 29-year veteran of the military. As you said, I'm a colonel right now. We're up in Washington, D.C. I'm a combat veteran from Iraq. I've led soldiers in combat. I've led prosecution teams. I presided over the highest profile murder trial in the history of the state. If those of you have heard of Alec Murdaugh, that was our office. So as I think about what I've done as Attorney General, and I understand that the governor is completing his term next year, and he's barred from running again. I've thought prayerfully about, you know, there are other opportunities, there are bigger, broader platforms for me to take my experience as a soldier, my experience as a prosecutor, my experience as someone who's good with policy and good at getting people to get on board with ideas, and like, what can I do if I had a bigger microphone? And the governor's office is a bigger microphone. The Attorney General's office is a big microphone, and I've done a lot of good, but I'm coming up on 16 years, and I've always had a heart for public service, so it is something that my family and I are prayerfully considering, and the more people that come up to me and encourage me to run, the more likely it is that I will. It is a decision I will formally make one way or the other later this summer.
I wouldn't hesitate to say the people of Pickens County, the majority of them, would encourage you to run.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's
I got one other one real quick. I saw a lot of stuff on Facebook today about your announcement or your press conference this morning, and there was a lot of comment in the comments. A lot of people were asking, can we or shouldn't we do what Florida did and deputize local law enforcement to work with ICE more?
So right after, literally, so he's asking, should local law enforcement be deputized to work with federal law enforcement agencies? The day after, yes, Gary, you're right. The day after President Trump took office, I think it was later that week, Kristi Noem was confirmed as the Secretary of Homeland Security. So I was texting her one morning, and I was saying, Kristi, I need to get the 287G program fired back up here in South Carolina. I'll tell you what that is in a second. Well, I'll tell you now. 287G program is under federal law. It's Section 7, 280G of the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act. And it allows local cops, local sheriff's deputies, to basically be blessed to perform immigration enforcement functions. Under the Obama years and during the Biden years, it was not implemented. Local law enforcement either was not allowed to join, or if they did join, it was so many requirements, like you have to have space for transgender inmates, like that kind of woke stuff. And you can't build new jails to do that, so law enforcement couldn't sign up under this program to help federal agents. And as you already heard me say, different administrations don't want to enforce immigration, so they dissuade local state law enforcement from supporting federal law enforcement. Well, I was texting with Kristi Noem. I said, Kristi, I need help in getting this program back up in South Carolina. She goes, call Tom Homan and call this other guy, and she gave me the other guy's name, and she says, call them, they're working on this for me right now. So I got that, I wrote down the number, and then I cut on Fox News, and I see Kristi Noem there on the streets of New York in the flat gear and the Humvees going in, and they're arresting all these illegal aliens who are members. And I'm like, she was texting me from the back of a Humvee. That's so cool. While they were out on the streets of New York doing these raids. But I went and I called Tom and I called Keith Price, who's the guy that she has working on these issues, and I worked with them in drafting a new 287G program. I sent letters to all 46 sheriffs. I've spoken with the chief of SLED. I've spoken with numerous police chiefs. And right now, for the last 15 or 20 years, we've had 3 counties out of 46 that were part of the 287G program. And those 3 weren't even using it during the Biden years because they couldn't participate. Now, I called our ICE representative the other day. They say right now we're up to 15 to 20 counties that have signed up to support. And I know Sheriff Blankenship, I know that he is very pro this. I know that Mike Crenshaw and Oconee. You guys have got great sheriffs up here. I'm telling you, great sheriffs. And I'm very proud of what your new sheriff is doing. But the 287G program is being built up. I can tell you that I will do it, and I know Chief of SLED has confirmed with me that they have signed up to be in this as of March, and they're going through their training right now, which will allow them to support ICE and removing illegals. So, yes, to the people who were in the comment section, yes, local law enforcement actually can support federal agents. Federal agencies now want, first off, the local federal agents that live in our state, they always wanted support. But the policies come down from up top, so their hands were tied. But now we have a tailwind, not a headwind, right? That's pushing us forward together. There is more collaboration, there's more cooperation between local prosecutors and federal prosecutors and local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and federal law enforcement than there's been in the last 14 years I've been in this job. And like I said, today that you had state, federal, and local people all standing together with this major cartel bust in Charleston. And I can tell you right now, these investigations are going on not just in the Low Country, but they're going on all over the place. And I have ongoing investigations right now in the upstate dealing with these very issues. So rest assured, you're going to be hearing more coming very soon.
Look forward to it.
It's local and federal working together.
Miss Virginia King would like to ask a question.
Back at the 2020 election, Mike Lindell was trying to get all the attorneys general to help him fight what a lot of us believed was a stolen election. I tried to contact your office to see what side of the fence you were on through email from the email address I was given, and I never did hear back.
Okay.
So I'd like to know, what side of the fence were you on, and were you helping him or just...
Well, ma'am, if you remember, I was part of the lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court because we were able to identify that states like Pennsylvania and other northeastern states were violating the Electors Clause in the U.S. Constitution. The Electors Clause says that only the state legislature can set the time, manner, and locations for federal elections or the Electoral College vote. And what you had during COVID is you had judges that were saying, okay, yeah, the Pennsylvania law says your ballot has to be in by 7 p.m. on election day, but we're going to give you 5 days to turn it in. And yes, the law says it has to be signed by the elector, and it has to be postmarked by 7 p.m. I mean, it can come in after, but it has to be postmarked. The courts were waiving all of that. And I'm like, wait a second, the legislature, that's not what the law says. And so I joined in the case that we co-wrote with Missouri that supported the Texas v. Pennsylvania case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court. A plurality of judges said that we should take this issue up, but a majority didn't let it go forward, so we lost on standing grounds. But we went to the Supreme Court to try to give the states a voice on that issue. I apologize if that you didn't get a call, but I know that we had a lot of bots, like the generate emails. We were getting tens of thousands of emails just inundating our servers at that time. And so I'm sure you did email, it just slipped through the cracks. But I apologize for that. But that is something that, that's the side that I was on, the rule of law. And that's the position I took at that time.
Are we doing anything to correct that problem? Not with email, but I mean with the elections. Because I know with 2024, it was too big to rig. Are we doing anything?
Well, here's the thing. I think COVID provided a lot of air cover to the leftist groups out there. I mean, under cover of COVID, they were able to pass laws that would have never been passed. The reason I wanted this at the Supreme Court, and Clarence Thomas actually picked up on this. He said, this isn't just about the presidential race. There's a lot of races out there at the state level where maybe 200 or 300 votes doesn't swing a state race. But there could be lots of local elections. There could be a state Senate race, a state House race, a municipal race, a school board race, right? And if a local official or a commission or a secretary of state or a judge can change the rules in the middle, then you can throw local elections as well. And so we need to make sure that we enforce the law, and that's why the Supreme Court needed to take it up, and they didn't take it up. So from a law standpoint, if it ever happens again, I will be there, if I'm still in the same job, to bring that case, and we'll be gladly bring that case. Yes, ma'am?
I want to go back to your exploration of possibly running for governor. I think that most of us are thrilled with what you're doing for South Carolina in your job, and I understand that sometimes a bigger microphone is what you seek, and we would love to see you be our governor.
Thank you.
My question is, if we lose you as AG, I'm hoping that somewhere in your mind you are thinking of someone that you might possibly be able to mentor and possibly endorse to take your place, because we really do hate to lose you as AG, but we would be thrilled to have you as governor.
Thank you. That is very kind and sweet for you to say, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's those kind of comments that really push me that direction. As to the AG's race, there are a number of candidates who have not announced publicly. You've all probably heard names. There's 3 or 4 names out there that I'm hearing repeatedly who are thinking about running for AG. Should I vacate or seek to vacate this job to do something else? I don't know if I feel comfortable saying their names publicly when they haven't announced yet. No, you weren't. I'm just telling you why I don't want to throw out names. I probably, if I decide to run for another office, I probably will not weigh in on any other races, because when you're running for one thing, you don't want to alienate people who may be supporting a number of different candidates. They might support you. I may have supporters of camps A, B, and C, and if I endorse Camp A, then B and C will be upset. And so I want to give the people a chance to make the determination if, whoever's running to replace me, that they can vet them. And I'm happy, to tell you what I'm looking for in a candidate for Attorney General. I'm looking for someone that's going to, first of all, protect and defend the President's Make America First agenda. Defending President Trump and what they're doing up there is so important. We have a very slim majority in the House. Literally, it's a 3-vote. We lose 3 votes and we can't get a bill across the line. The Senate's a little better. But we got to be able to defend and protect the rule of law. We've got to be able to stand up to a lot of the woke stuff. I engage in lawsuits in other states all the time. Not because I want to meddle in those other states' business, but those state cases go all the way to the Supreme Court. And if I can win a fight over here in Tennessee on that case, the Help Not Harm case, then I don't have to fight it here in South Carolina again. That's why I'm in Michigan. That's why I'm in California. That's why I'm going in all these other circuits to fight these cases. I want an AG, if I do get replaced, who's going to take that fight, who's going to fight for the Make America First agenda, who's going to defend and protect the president, and who's going to be hard on crime, who's going to go after predators and pedophiles, who's going to go after drug traffickers, cartel members, Tren de Aragua, violent gangs. I want all of that. And someone's going to take a hard line on that will have my support.
You have absolutely enormous boots to fill.
I got to get my head out of here. You're so sweet. Thank you.
A couple of thoughts crossed my mind. One, the lawsuit that you were talking about you took to the Supreme Court, was that, forgive me if I didn't pick up on the details enough a while ago, was that this lawsuit where the Democrats were coming into South Carolina and trying to do the same mail-in ballot stuff here as they were in other places, and it went to the Supreme? I remember the SCGOP being involved in that too.
Yes. So you're talking about, you're going back to 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. That was Texas v. Pennsylvania. And Texas was suing Pennsylvania. And my position when I told people is that as it related to the constitutional arguments that were being made in that Texas lawsuit, which I totally supported, people say, why are you getting in Texas, in Pennsylvania's business? I'm like, because Pennsylvania is an electoral college. And if one elected official or one unelected official, one unelected bureaucrat can negate a state law and open up the possibility that there's fraud in an electoral, in a state like Pennsylvania, that can throw, because really the U.S. presidential elections come down to what, 4, 5, 6 states? And if you can get 4, 5, 6 unelected bureaucrats to just unilaterally just disregard the law, you can get 2 of those states to disregard the law. They can throw an entire presidential election. So that's why it matters. It disenfranchises y'all if Pennsylvania's not following the law up there for a presidential race.
Hasn't the interpretation of the Constitution always been that the only entity that can make presidential election rules and laws as the state legislature and nobody else.
Correct.
And-
That's right. And I have standing as the Attorney General to bring those cases,
Right.
whereas others don't. And that's why I did that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sincerely. The other thing that came to mind in that vein is it's a big deal among hardcore Republicans like me to have closed primaries. And there's been an advisory question on the ballot last 4 elections, Republican primaries. And the Republican primary voters have voted over 80% that they want closed primaries, that we want to have registration by party and closed primaries. Now, this is more of a governor's question than an attorney general's question, I realize that. But do you have any thoughts on that or where you are on that?
No, listen, I have no problem closing the primaries whatsoever. If that's what people want, and that's what we should have. But I do want to say this, and this is not me equivocating, this is me just giving you some historical context. If you go back 60 years ago, there was no Republican Party in South Carolina. It didn't exist, and it was the open primary system that allowed Democrats who didn't feel comfortable with what they were seeing to migrate and vote in Republican primaries, and we got our first I think it was Charlie Boyno in the State House in the 1960s, and then Floyd Spence followed in Congress, and then Strom Thurmond. I think Thurmond was right before Spence. But you started to see people switch parties under the open primary system. And so if you do close the primaries, there's a lot of good that's going to come with that. You're going to make people make a decision. But you're also going to close it off to people who might be conservative. Here's the thing. I'm talking to a lot of people. And this is not, and by the way, I'd be totally fine closing the primaries via statute by law. I would sign that bill if I were the governor, if the General Assembly put it on my desk. Okay, I'm saying that unequivocally. But what I want people to think about is there are a lot of people out there. I'll tell you right now, I'm meeting with a large number of people in the minority community who feel very uncomfortable with what they're seeing in National Democratic Party politics. I'm talking to black pastors. I'm talking to Hispanics. They're not ready to put the label of Republican on yet, but they're ready to vote Republican. A lot of them have come up to me and said, hey, I'm willing to vote for you, Mr. Wilson. I like what I'm hearing from you. But they're culturally, for decades, they've been afraid. And that's because of the demagoguery that's going on out there. But be that as it may, if you close the primary, you could be, one of the potential unintended consequences is our party might not get bigger. It might stagnate because people who want to vote Republican and will vote Republican are not be able to. That's just something to think about. But if that bill gets debated and gets passed by the legislature, I would sign it if it landed on my desk.
Thank you for being candid.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to give both sides, right?
There you go.
Fair and balanced.
We could end up with something like North Carolina. I'm not saying this is what I want, but in North Carolina, you can be unaffiliated Democrat or Republican, and unaffiliated can vote in either. So
there's a way to thread the needle, and there's a way to accommodate some of these issues. But that's why the legislature is the best way to do this, not the courts. Let the legislature, the people's representatives, debate it. You can go and talk to Rex Rice, or you can talk to your House member and say, hey, this is what I want, and this is why I want it. And he can come back and say, I can give you this, but hey, have you thought about this? And you might say, you're right, we probably need to back off. You can have those conversations on policy debates.
folks, oh, you got another one?
Just a quick thing. I'm probably a very, very rare person being a Jewish Republican, because traditionally Jews, for some reason, have always pulled that blue lever. And Tom Homan was a very good friend of Jexit. I'm a member of Jexit. President Trump has supported Jexit. Jexit means Jews exiting the Democrat Party. And I have been very active in trying to do that. And what you said about people saying, well, you know, the other party has some really great ideas, but we're not quite ready to change. I cannot understand people who, well, my family's always voted whatever, so I'm always going to vote whatever.
Yeah.
It's an uphill battle.
It is.
Hey, I'm the Jewish kid that's Republican around here, so I'm trying to spread it.
Let me tell you this. I have met with a number of Jewish groups. I actually had Shabbat dinner in Charleston a couple of weeks ago. I took my wife down there. It was maybe 2 months ago. I don't want to say where, because but you know how I was talking about how people come up to me and make these comments that encourage me to run? A lot of them are from the Jewish community. I'm talking to rabbis. I'm talking to people who are apolitical because they're faith leaders or they're active in their synagogues. And I'm sitting there at the Shabbat dinner, and they're all talking to me. They're like, "We want you to run. We want you to run." Or we like these ideas that the Republican Party is talking about. We like your positions on October 7th and your defense of Israel, right? They love it. And so there are inroads being made into that community. But you're right. Historically, Democrats have had a lock on some of these groups. But I think there's a lot of people who are starting. The Democrats have gone way overboard. They have gone way just beyond the pale. And so, and look, Donald Trump. I mean, look at what he was able to accomplish. I mean, we're the populist party compared to where the Democrats were 20 years ago. And so people are starting to. I've got black friends. I got Jewish friends. I got Hispanic friends. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. I have a family member who's gay. And this relative and his husband came to see me at the office a couple weeks ago. Actually, the husband came to see me. He was married to my relative. And he looked up on my screen. He just got a job in South Carolina, and they just moved back here. And he looked up on us, and he saw a pleading that I was drafting regarding birthright citizenship. Am I challenging that, right? Because I just don't think the 14th Amendment was meant to do that. And I saw him look at it. I'm like, oh, goodness, my relative is going to be left on this. And he goes, "I'm so glad to see you doing that." And I'm like, really? I was like, wow, I appreciate you saying that. I said, welcome to the Republican Party. And this person is not a Republican. And he says, look, I did not vote for Donald Trump, but I can find very little that I disagree with in the last 100 days that he's been president. And then his partner, who is my relative, was a Trump supporter. The guy that does my wife's hair, he and his husband voted for Donald Trump. Look, the state senator from Greenville who represents Bob Jones University is gay, but votes super conservative. So what I'm saying is that South Carolina is really, I think many members of our various demographics are coming into the Republican fold because we're the party that is normal. Let me say this. Let me qualify it. We're the party with the most normal platform. Sometimes we get feral on each other. And let me tell you this, guys. I know that during reorganization and county conventions and state, and I know there was a lot of controversy up here. I get that. And I know at the state convention, it all came to a head. And I know that in primaries, people will pick sides and we will fight. But it is so important that somebody who is my 80% friend is not my 20% enemy. And sometimes I think we focus too much on what divides us and not what unites us. I went to the Republican and Democratic caucuses several years ago, and this is what I said to them. And I've gone to the Freedom Caucus, and I've given similar speeches. There's three kinds of issues, and I'm saying this to all of you. There are issues in which we are in 100% agreement. I will be your best friend, your strongest ally. I will go to the mattress for you. I will go in the trenches for you. There's a second tier of issue. That second tier is when we both have a position. Those positions are not completely in alignment. We're going to have to compromise. We'll both walk away with an 80% solution. We'll both be a little happy, a little upset. That's a compromise, right? And then there's a third tier. There's issues in which we're completely on opposite sides. Our positions are irreconcilable. They cannot coexist in harmony together in the reality. What I will do is I will take off the mantle of friendship. I will put on the mantle, metaphorically, of a boxer and get into the ring of ideas, and we will box those ideas out. And if I am the winner, I will get out of the ring, put on the mantle of friendship, and I will shake your hand. If I'm the loser, I will get out and I will shake your hand, because my enemy today on this issue may be my best friend tomorrow on that issue. And you have to do that. You have to do that. You can't be an absolutist on everything. You get 80%, then you're a winner. You can always come back for the other 20 another time, but you can't always just cram things down your partner's throat.
One more question for Miss Virginia, and we're going to wind this up.
Okay. Miss Virginia.
On the closed election thing, the argument I have always had against it, because I think either way would be okay, but there was one of the western states that it seemed like a lot of them changed from Democrat to Republican, voted for Nikki Haley, and then went back to Democrat. And that's what I see to be a problem. And then the independents don't have anything. But if the Democrats are wanting to vote for a weaker candidate and say, okay, I think I'm going to be a Republican so I can vote for this person, And then
The
after
party to vote for the bad candidate so that you, in the general election, your candidate can beat their candidate, is what you're saying, yeah.
And then after the election, I go back to whatever I was before I changed my mind type
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I really don't see where that would gain anything.
Well, look, there are pros and cons to both. Okay, and again, I'm not here today to just, we don't have the time. But what but y'all are raising good points. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just saying is that we should have an open and thoughtful debate, or I wouldn't even say a debate, a conversation, because you have to be. Nobody is right 100% of the time on every issue. Only one guy was right 100% of the time, and I ain't him. It's 2,000 years ago, right? I know that I could be wrong on an issue, which is why I'm open to the possibility that we need to switch to a closed primary, but I'm also open to the possibility that the open primary might be better than the alternative, or that there might be some third option down the middle that we could do. I'm open to all three, but I'm not going to be closed off to them. We have to have those conversations.
And I'm going to be, you were kind to us to come here and drive all this time when you've got plans tomorrow the way you do. So I'm going to be kind to you and not drag this out tonight and let
Can I give a last 30-second closing?
Well, you most certainly can. You can have 30 more minutes if you want.
30 seconds, or 60 seconds. Every time I go anywhere, and I've said this, I know you've heard me say this before. She hears me speak all over. Whenever I come and speak to a room of people, and I don't care if it's 30 people or 300 people or 3,000 people, I always say this. The office of the Attorney General does not belong to Alan Wilson. I am a trustee of a public office. The office doesn't belong to me, it belongs to you, the people of South Carolina. And for the last 4 cycles, for the last 14 plus years, I have come to you for a job interview every 4 years, and you have allowed me to remain as trustee of this office. And I'm here tonight, whether you were here back in the beginning or you're recently here, thank you for allowing me to serve as trustee of the office of AG. The day that I no longer act like this office belongs to you and it belongs to me is the day you need to throw me out of it. And I also see every time I come to a place, the reason I'm willing to drive 2 hours, technically 4 hours from Charleston, I did stop and work in Columbia and came up here and then I'm going back, is because I see you all, not only my fellow citizens, you're my employer. And I'm here today to report to you what I'm doing. I hope to possibly, and we'll see, if I go on another job interview, I would prayerfully ask for your support if that happens. But there could be another job interview in my future. So I ask you to prayerfully consider that if and when I come to you. Thank you so much, and God bless you all. And I will be coming back a lot, I promise.
And we'll be glad to have you. I never miss an opportunity to say this. I get choked up when I think about my mom, but what you were saying a while ago about trying to be civil, and today I fight with you in the arena of ideas, and tomorrow I'll shake your hands and we'll be friends, right? My mother insisted that the first step to living a Christian life was John 13:34-35. And this is paraphrasing, I can't quote it exactly, but the 2 verses are, I give you this commandment, love one another even as I have loved you. You'll be known as my disciples by the way you treat one another. So if we're going to profess to be Christians, we need to keep that in mind, and God bless my mother for teaching me that.
Amen.
And my Jewish friend says she feels the same way. June the 24th, Tuesday, June the 24th, State Treasurer Curtis Loftus will be here for a town hall with us, so tell your friends. And once again, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you. And one last thing, you can find this video at Pickens County Town Hall on Facebook and at pickenscountytownhall.com on the internet. So share it with your friends. Good night.